I'm a two-time cancer survivor. Had stage 4 cancer, and then was given 3 months to live, which kind of led me into creating Healthy on the Go. My distribution partner, who was delivering the food product to the stores, they had created a healthier merchandising program similar to mine with less healthy items, but offering the retailers a better deal. So overnight, I lost about 80% of my company. I remember laying on my bathroom floor in tears thinking, oh my God, everything I've built, I've just lost overnight. What am I gonna do?
Welcome to the Midgame Mindset. Join us as we dive into the pivotal moments that shape today's top sales and marketing leaders, RevOps innovators, and entrepreneurs. This is where grit meets growth and the game changes for good. If you find value in this conversation, be sure to share it with another growth leader who would enjoy it. And now, let's get to the show. Hello and welcome to the Midgame Mindset. I'm your host, Rich Bishop, and I am so excited to have with us Krista Anderson here today. The Midgame Mindset is a place where growth leaders come to share their stories about the moves that they made that changed their lives and changed the game that they're playing for good. And Krista is no exception to that. She is the author of the book, Claim Your Healing, and she truly is a pioneer in the healthy food movement that you see in the US going on right now. She founded Healthy on the Go, which was nominated by Michelle Obama's Partnership for a Healthy America as a catalyst for change. She also was recently nominated as Health-Centered Offer of the Year by the International Airport Food and Beverage Awards. Krista, it's great to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Rich, I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me on your show.
I love it. Now, tell us a little bit more about you. You've had a lot going on. I just touched on some of the highlights. Tell us a little bit more about you.
Well, I'm a two-time cancer survivor. Had stage 4 cancer, and then was given 3 months to live, which kind of led me into creating Healthy on the Go. I know we'll talk about later. Also living in the south of France, building an international business abroad, which has taught me a lot of life lessons. So really excited to share about that.
Awesome. Well, let's dig into it. I'd love for us to start at what we call the midgame moment. Now, the midgame moment, it comes from the fact that we've found that growth leaders all have this commonality of a challenge that they're facing in their career or in their business that they're struggling to overcome, and they end up pulling from personal experiences, books, mentors to change their mindset, which then sets them off in a different direction where they meet new heights of success. And so as I describe that, what comes to mind for you?
Well, I would say it was shortly after the Michelle Obama nomination from a partnership for Healthier America. I was at the peak of business I started the company in 2014, and I think 4 or 5 years later, we were nominated for this Catalyst for Change Award, which is quite, an opportunity for a small business. And, at the time we had about 200 retail stores that we were partnered with, offering our healthier food options. And I got a call one day from one of my sales guys, and he said, hey, what do you want us to do with these merchandising displays? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, we're taking them out of the stores. And I was like, why would we be doing that? And I was completely unaware, but my distribution partner, who was delivering the food product to the stores, they had created a healthier merchandising program similar to mine with less healthy items, but offering the retailers a better deal. So they basically worked with me for a year, learned how it worked, saw the success of the program, created a better opportunity for the retailer to pay them money, or give them better costs unknowingly. So overnight, I lost about 80% of my company. Everything I'd been building for all those years, we were selling into convenience stores, universities, and about 12 states in the United States. And so I remember laying on my bathroom floor in tears thinking, oh my God, everything I've built, I've just lost overnight. What am I going to do?
My gosh. Yeah, that had to be tough That had to be tough. I want to come back to this, but I think it's important for us to step back to the beginning of where Healthy on the Go came from. Now you're offering healthy food options out there, as you said, on college campuses, in airports and convenience stores at the time. Where did you get that idea?
Well, as I briefly mentioned in the beginning, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, kidney cancer, which metastasized to my chest cavity and collapsed my right lung. So I lost my right kidney, my right lung. And during my time, going through cancer and all the appointments and going to the hospital and living kind of out of the hospital most of the time, I found myself having to pack food with me every time I went, or, when I was just on the go, anytime I'd leave the house to help fight the disease and to protect my body, because there was never anything healthy to eat, even in a hospital, which is crazy. And so, after I was healed, I decided, I want to do something about this. And part of it was walking into a gas station one day looking for something healthy, as a snack, and there was nothing there. And I left empty-handed. And I'm like, all right, this we need to fix. And so I sold everything I owned, started this company out of a tiny little garage apartment above somebody's garage, 400 square feet, the real entrepreneur story, right? And embarked on, this creation of, creating custom planograms for retailers of healthier food options and putting it under the Healthy on the Go umbrella.
I love it. And give us a time frame. When did that start? When did that happen?
Um, I was, I started the company in 2014, so it was probably 2 or 3 years after I was healed. And yeah.
Now, it's interesting to hear that time frame, because now there's a lot of momentum happening in this world, and that's why I said at the beginning, you really are a pioneer, because you were lifting the boulder when it was the heaviest and pushing it uphill, as you were going. I'd love to find out from you, as you were looking at this. You obviously had a very near to your heart experience of looking for the healthier snacks, not finding them, even in the hospital. Unfortunately, the food that was there was just not cutting it, right? Not going to work. How did you decide to go into distribution and putting the planograms together versus maybe creating your own products and becoming a manufacturer?
So I actually, it kind of, so if I took a step back just before I started the company, I was helping a kind of a nutritional bar company get off the ground. They just started. So I was working as their director of sales, and I was visiting a convenience store one day, and I had the bars there as samples to talk to the guy about selling in the gas stations. And then I was like, where am I going to put this? I can't just put it on the shelf with Power Bar or like all these unhealthy Cliff bars, Like, it's a really nutritional bar. Everything's coming from nature. And I was like, it's going to get lost. It needs a healthier section. So I just started talking to the guy, the C-store owner, and I was like, why don't you create a healthy section? And he looked at me, he's like, why don't you create it and bring it back, and we'll be your first customer? And I was like, oh my God, okay, let's. So that's when I went back to the food bar company. I was like, I'm starting a company. You could be my first client if you want. And so it kind of started there, because, you can't throw on healthy items in a store and expect people to know that they are healthy. Most people don't know how to read nutritional label or to decipher between false marketing and things like that that's on packaging. But I will say, going back to what you said earlier too, is that, starting this type of business in Tennessee, where it's not really the most healthiest part of the United States, and targeting convenience stores as the first customer, which is one of the most unhealthiest places you can go in America. And I was like, so I was really, really up against like a strong wall, and it was a hard battle in the beginning. And you're right, now this is really a thing that people are really concerned about, and looking for healthier options everywhere. So
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up about gas stations and convenience stores. I don't know if it's still the case, because it's been a little while since I've been out of the industry, but when you measure an industry and the size of store sales based on the cigarette sales that they make, you know it's not going to be healthy.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing, that how do you help a retailer make a change like that when they're making money on soda fountains, cigarettes, the unhealthy stuff. But then, there's a consumer that is looking for that stuff that is not shopping there. They're looking for healthier options. So it's a tough change. We've got to help make this shift in America. It's tough.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. So you have it, and it's fantastic that you've got this potential first customer who challenges you. You know what? You go and make this and I'll be your first customer. How did you get to the point where you got to the product that ended up being, call it version one for that customer?
So I got online and Googled where I could find healthier food products, snacks. So we started the snack program. And I went to a trade show in Baltimore and just showed up. Never been to a trade show in my life, knew nothing about the natural food industry. And I just showed up and I was just talking to anybody I could talk to about the idea, meeting with manufacturers. I found manufacturers that I really liked. I also did some search online too, finding companies I thought would sell really well and that had really good product. But while I was there, I pulled a gentleman aside who was the VP of one of the largest national brokerage companies for the food industry. And he was speaking on stage. After he finished, I went up to him and I said, can I buy you a coffee for just like a couple minutes of your time? I have some questions and, I want to start this company. I want to get your thought process. So I sat down with him and he's like, Krista, we tried selling healthier foods in gas stations. It doesn't work. People aren't going to buy it. Don't waste your time. So when I got back to Nashville, I thought for a couple of days about it and I'm like, what am I doing? He kind of knocked the wind out of my sails. And then I decided, you know what? I have to do this because I know how important it is for the health of America. So we went for it.
That's awesome. So you went for it. You ended up pulling you found the manufacturers that you were looking for, right? Did you find them at that show, or did it take some time to kind of settle in on who's really providing the healthy food here that I can get behind and put my brand behind?
I did find some at the trade show, absolutely. And some were just connections I made by online searching. And from the beginning of my research to start the business, of this conversation with the convenience store guy to going into the first convenience store, was 6 months. So it was quite fast, surprisingly. I had a lot of hiccups along the way with the merchandising displays and things like that, but I pulled the portfolio together fairly quickly and we gave it a test. So
that's great. So you pulled the portfolio together, got into the stores. Now, did you have distribution at that point, or were you working all of that out of your garage studio?
Oh my Lord. I have photos I sometimes when I see, I'm like, how did I ever survive this moment of my life? But I had pallets of product and UPS deliveries delivered to my door. I would carry them up the steps, stock them in my bedroom, kitchen, living room. It was one room. And just had my inventory in this room. And then I would deliver all the deliveries to the stores twice a week, sometimes three times a week in my Honda Accord. And I did this for, I think, 3 years until it got too big where I couldn't keep driving around and it expanded out of Tennessee. And then we had to find a distributor to do it for us. So.
So you're living in boxes, you're doing laundry around boxes. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Such a great story of the grit that it takes to really get something off the ground and moving. So once you've expanded so far that you can't do the distribution yourself, tell me about that first distribution agreement that you had.
Well, the retailer, they kind of forced it onto the distributor because the program was doing really well and we had enough volume for them to bring these items into their warehouse. And so we got it all set up. I did all the paperwork for that, and then they started delivering to all the stores. It was pretty seamless, but yeah, I mean, it allowed me to then take the business to anywhere in the United States with that new strategy that, okay, now I know healthy foods can sell in convenience stores. Then we started to move into universities. Now we're in a lot more other retail categories, but it started to grow. It gave me the opportunity to really expand nationwide. So, and we had a kind of a strategy that could be was a good blueprint to duplicate into other parts of the country. So, and then of course that's when that same distributor came in and pretty much stole everything. And unfortunately, you're a small business, you can't afford to hire a lawyer to sue them. For me, I've never taken an investor in this business, and I've bootstrapped everything. And so I didn't have the will to fight back. I couldn't do it. And I lost, everything at that point. So,
God, that had to be so hard to deal with. What was that process like of kind of getting to or going through the stages of grief? I'm sure that anyone would kind of expect in that situation. What was that like for you, and what was the moment where you came out on the other side and decided what your next step was going to be?
I will say I lost at that moment all trust in humanity in a way, because the people I was working with, they were almost they were friends too. I was working with a group of guys in this organization, and they were kind of like a brother. At times I could ask advice, and they were very supportive and knew the mission behind Healthy on the Go. This has never been a money business for me. It's been very obviously mission based. And how they could just rip off a small business like that, which they knew I couldn't fight back. And, so it was tough. And at that point in my life, I had visited France for the filming of a TV show called The Healthy Traveler that we were launching in coinciding with Healthy on the Go and the brand to help bring more visibility to this, brand. And so I fell in love with the French culture, and I saw the way that they lived, that, you say l'art de vivre, the art of living, in the way that they emphasize this moment around the table. It's like a sacred moment at the table with friends or family, and good food, wholesome, nutritious food from, local farm. It's all healthy. And they take time to be in the moment and slow down and live. And I remember it shocked me a lot because I had never sat at a table and had a meal for that long in my life. And, if I was eating, it was next to my computer. And my lifestyle was completely out of whack. And so I remembered this experience when what I call is the unraveling of my American dream had happened. And so I booked a one-way ticket and went to France. And I was like, I have got to save myself, because I couldn't breathe. I was really stressed. And so I spent a couple months in France and just processing everything. And I decided I wanted to move. So I went home, applied for a visa, packed 3 suitcases, and I moved to the south of France, and I've been here ever since.
Wow.
So it's not the right answer for everybody, but I will say it's shocking to me where the business is today after I decided to pick up the pieces and that journey that I went on to get there.
Yeah, I definitely want to unpack that, because I think that's important. There are a lot of people who deal with, if they deal with the situation that you described, if they deal with that kind of situation in their life, sometimes it's a divorce, sometimes it's a business failing, sometimes it's a loved one close to them passing away, right? Maybe it's just even failed relationships in general, that a lot of times people will try to either medicate it chemically, right? Or they'll try to just move past it and stay busy. And that's where a lot of, workaholic tendencies tend to come from, is let me just keep going and just keep busy so that I don't have to pause, sit back and reflect on what's just happened. And I think there's a lot of value in sitting in that moment, in that part that just really sucks, and understanding and learning, okay, what is it that I'm supposed to learn here? What is it that I'm supposed to see? And I applaud you. A change of scenery to France sounds like it helped to give you the right kind of perspective to be able to see it and sit in that for a little bit, but learn the lessons that you were probably intended to learn as a part of that process.
Absolutely. I could talk for days on what the lessons I've learned from leaving a society that we grow up in, and one way of thinking, one way of being, and one way of doing, to another culture, and you learn so much from other cultures. I think that's the power of travel. But for me, I rode the business out financially while I took a break. And as the unraveling was happening, I was slowly running out of money. And, there was a moment where I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I think I have to get a job, because I couldn't decide if I wanted to go back to building this business again. I thought, why would I build something up that someone can just wipe out in an instant? And I didn't trust anybody anymore. But it came back to, after taking a year or so off, and running this through my head over and over and over. I tried to start another company. It just didn't flow, didn't feel right. But there was something sitting in me. And I think, it's this calling or what we're supposed to do with our life in a way. And I couldn't get rid of it. And so I thought, all right, I'm going to go back to this, but with very positive a vengeance, So I'm on fire, and we're going to fight harder than we fought before. And it took me a long time to revive and stand back up and do that again. But the thing that I will say is what I learned from the French culture is that it was not about me anymore. And what I was building the business on before, I was never interested, like I said, in money, or fame or any of that. But I felt like I was too much the front of the business with my story. And what the French had taught me was a happy life is a hidden life. And you can see that in politics today. I would hate to be in the political realm. I mean, you get beat down publicly, verbally, all the time and I think for me, it was just taking a step back. None of this is about me. Just keep doing the right thing. And, I created a new business kind of plan, better contracts in place, buttoned the business back up with lawyers. And then, I got a phone call one day that was an opportunity for healthcare nationwide. And I was like, this thing's got a heartbeat. I don't know how, but it does. And so I went for it. And, now we're bigger than ever the business has ever been. I have people working for me now. It's been very successful. We just launched a new program in beverages. So all while sitting in the south of France. And I'll say this one last thing is one of the greatest life lessons I've learned is that the energy of letting go and not trying to make something happen, trying to be successful, trying to be number one, trying, but you just let go. There's a great book I read called The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. Fantastic book, how he built a multi-million-dollar company on letting go and saying yes to the things that come and let life guide him instead of him guiding life. That's how this business has grown. And I don't know how someone living in another country with a 6 to 8 hour time difference can build the business to where it is today. And I'm incredibly grateful. It was a letting go.
That's awesome. And I'm going to butcher the quote because I don't remember exactly where it comes from, but there was always a quote with a visual of holding a baby bird in your hand, right? You don't want to hold too tight because you'll crush it, but you don't want to hold it too loose either because then it'll fly away and it'll get away. You've got to hold it with the right amount in order to keep it there, in order for it to thrive and to do well in that position. And I agree with you. I think there's a lot to be said for the frenetic pace of just go, and wanting to control everything because you have to mentally, right? Just to kind of keep it all straight. And then the difference of, you know what, let me play it more instinctively and read the room, read what's happening, and take advantage of the opportunities when they're there, but not press when there isn't an opportunity there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the part of the letting go too is that we have to have balance as entrepreneurs, even as employees. Any like our jobs cannot be our life. When we're out of balance, the our work is out of balance, and nothing can succeed when it's like that. And I think, that's another thing I learned from the French is that they don't live to work. They work to live. It's not their number one priority in life, and that's not where their identity comes from. And it's about making sure you're exercising, you're eating well, you're living and enjoying life. And then it's, oh yeah, I've got to make money, which sounds completely different than the United States. And so it's a different way of thinking, but it works. It really works. This work hard to achieve, it's a great thing. There's a time and place for it, but not all the time.
Yeah. Being able to, when do you hit the gas and when do you ease off a little bit and play it in neutral for a little bit? So when things have to be stressful at times, I'm sure you've gone through some really stressful times in trying to get the business up and running from that first phone call of being able to go into the healthcare systems and hospitals. How do you stay calm and keep it cool when things get stressful?
Wine. I'm just kidding.
Well, you are in France.
It used to be a glass of wine or two at the end of the day. For me, I mean, this is totally me, just a personal thing, but for me, it's road cycling. It's like, for one, you feel like you're a kid again on a bicycle, and it's a load of adrenaline taking a descent down a hill going like 55, 60, well, it's kilometers per hour, sorry. But taking a fast descent, or just the workout itself and releasing stress and the breath work of that and getting your body to a calm state. And then so much great strategy comes in those types of moments for me. When I need to clear my head, I'm like, just get out on my bike, go get in nature, alone to process whatever it is I'm up against. And somehow, some way, you come up with the solution. And for me, it's always listening to myself, not everyone else. What do I think? What do I feel is right?
Giving yourself, going back to that space again, giving yourself that space to be able to think and to process and to allow inspiration to come to you rather than trying to force it.
Absolutely. And I think just recently, one of the things that I did was went on a trip and turned my phone off for 5 days. I'll tell you, that's amazing. I didn't even want to come back because you see all the details of life. You're in the moment. Like, there's no distraction. Nothing's penetrating you. I think we need that sometimes. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. That reminds me that I just went to a concert on Friday night, a big concert here. And at some of the highest points of the concert, everybody had their phones out. And I'm talking 70,000 people in the stadium had their phones out and they were recording it, sure, so they could remember it later. But you're watching this experience through your phone and you're there in person. Like, that just really struck me as something odd. And it got me to go, oh, crap, let me put this away because this is just, I can find the video somewhere else.
And how many of those people do you think are actually ever going to go back and look at that video?
Right.
I never do. I mean, I'm a culprit for this too, but it's like, how often do I actually go back and look at it? Yeah, it's important to live in the moment. We get one life. We might as well live it.
I love it. I love it. So, all right, let's go to, you've got the call to get into the healthcare systems. The business has a heartbeat. Tell us what that experience was like of taking that step, and then where did you go from there? How did the business get from there, having a little bit of a heartbeat, to the thriving business that it is now?
I believed in it again. And I think because someone else believed in it first, to remind me that it was a need, that retailers wanted it, needed it. And so that kind of put the wind back in my sails to start sailing again. And with this healthcare contract, it allowed us to have access to 250,000 healthcare facilities in the United States, because you have to have approval in most situations to sell something in there. So we had basically the contract to do so. And so just started going after that. And luckily, last year we got a contract with the second largest healthcare group in the US, and we've been rolling out with them nationwide, which has been really exciting. We're selling, upwards of 650 units a month in just a hospital of this section of healthy snacks, and it's like people want this. Medical staff are looking for this. And then, it's just seeing the success grow that I continue to reach out to other opportunities. And, we have a contract since last year as well with a large airport retailer, which is actually a French company. And so working with them, we're rolling out nationwide with them, which has been really exciting and helping travelers have healthier options.
I think that's great. And I've seen you do a great job on, or you and the team do a great job on social media of posting all of the new placements and the locations. And you now have even travelers or people in the hospital will stop and take a quick video, a testimonial of how grateful they are to have that there. I can tell you as a traveler myself that I'm always looking for that healthy option. And until recently, obviously the options have been limited, but it's great to see that even a lot of the airports that I'm going through now on a regular basis, I know exactly where that healthy on the go stand is, and we're able to get our healthier snacks for the traveling and not have to rely on the greasy fast food and some of the other stuff that may be passed off as healthy, but we all know really isn't. And being able to get to something that truly is good for you. I think that's fantastic. And I'm excited to see you continue to expand across the country. And so as you look at now the airports with the packaged goods, the packaged foods, you've got a new launch coming out right now, right?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this. Like, it's funny. It's June 9th right now. So March, about 3 months ago, exactly 3 months ago, actually, I had the idea to do this. And in 3 months, we've developed a whole new beverage program. And we have the coolers in the warehouse ready to go. And we basically vetted, America's top healthy beverages. And that was hard because there's so much crap in beverages. It's unbelievable. Now, snacks, of course, you see that, but there's a lot more healthier snacks than there are beverages, in my opinion. And so we've had to vet through a lot of stuff, and we've got some of the top healthy beverage brands part of this program, which is super exciting. So it's Drink Better, Feel Better is the program. And so we just started rolling it out to offer it to retailers, and we're looking for partners to develop this with us. So it's really exciting. I think it's going to do even better than the snacks. I've got a good feeling on it. So
yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And when you look at, say, the airports, for example, the healthier beverages that are there are completely loaded with sugar, and they aren't passed off that way. But yeah, I'm sure it was quite an undertaking to vet through all of the different options that are out there.
yeah, and I would say retailers aren't doing this unless it's like a natural food health store, like an Air One or your local little organic shop that really is passionate about it. Most retailers are looking at how much money can they make. And that's where we help kind of create both for them. They have a healthier choice that has high sales potential, but if we don't start making decisions that is better for the health of people, not just about money, we're going to shorten humanity's lifespan. We've been heading in the wrong direction. And so I think, this is what Healthy on the Go stands for, is kind of being that kind of stamp of approval for people to trust and know that, okay, these products have been vetted and looked at, and the manufacturing processes have been looked at, the sourcing of their ingredients have been looked at, more than the FDA looks at, more than an organic certification looks at.
Yeah, there's a lot of those organic certifications that if you hear some of what has been reported on those, and you truly want what's healthy for you, you don't necessarily trust that stamp of approval that's there.
Organic certification in the US compared to Europe, completely different. There's a lot of product in the US that would never be able to be sold in Europe, and our standards are too low. And so I think, that's where we kind of up the game on that for people.
And there is a big movement now, and of course we're staying out of politics in general here, but there is a big movement to try to get to the heart of what truly is healthy and make some changes to the FDA and to some of the regulatory bodies here in the US of what's allowed and what's not. And it's exciting to see that happening. But I think it's also obviously a great opportunity for you and what you're doing with Healthy on the Go, that this really is a wave that's got a lot of momentum moving forward, that you're right at the crest of it, moving on with this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for people, finding your local farmer, having a garden if you've got the time and space, or even just like little plants on your patio if you have an apartment, you can develop this lifestyle to be healthier and sourcing the right foods from people. You just got to do some research. And I think there's a lot of small towns in the US I've seen that are, you've got a lot of local farmers doing organic production, and it's just finding those people where you can go get your food versus going to a, large grocery store where you don't have access to all of that. So, and the more we support them, the more this movement grows. And that's the one thing I would say is, if anybody listening is passionate about seeing change in America, is we have to vote with our dollars. Every dollar we spend is a vote. We have control. The government has less control, and these big companies have less control than we do. We are the power. And I think, if we unite together in voting with our dollars for food that is produced correctly and supporting companies that are doing it transparently and right, it helps move the needle in that direction. And in turn, we can really make a huge change as a country.
I love it. So as we get ready to wrap up, there's a question that we always like to go to, and with your journey being as varied as it is and in different places, there have to have been some lessons that you've learned along the way, that if you were mentoring somebody in your company now, or mentoring somebody as the company continues to grow, what is one lesson from your life and your journey that you've learned that you hope to impart on those around you or those that you're mentoring?
I would say, don't forget to live. We can get so wrapped up in things that create stress in our lives. Like you said in the beginning, whether it's marriage challenges, business challenges, health challenges, we just have to slow down and know that the only moment we have is the here and right now. And I know it's cliche, easier said than done, but the reality is we only get one shot at this thing called life, and why would we not just enjoy it, instead of stressing about everything? And I think that's, for me, it's none of this stuff in the end of the day matters when things are all said and done, but to just live and enjoy life.
I love it, Krista. You've got such a great testimony of taking life as it comes, getting punched in the face and jumping right back into it, right? Really being able to take it step by step, even back to starting the business without having a real detailed plan in front of you and spending weeks and months and years putting this plan together before acting on it. You jumped into action right away, and you continue to jump into action as you have these opportunities. And to launch a new product line in 3 months is just unbelievable. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing that story with us. If people want to get in touch with you or to follow you more, how can they do that?
They can find us on healthyonthego.us, our website, or Facebook and Instagram is healthyonthego.us. And you can find us on LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect.
Awesome. Yeah, and we'll put those links all in the show notes as well for everybody. So thank you, Krista, for joining us. It was great to have you.
Thanks, Rich. You're awesome. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us on the Midgame Mindset. If today's episode sparked a new idea or helped shift your perspective, share it with someone who's ready to grow. Subscribe, leave a review, and keep playing the game. With the right mindset, the best moves are still ahead. Until next time, keep changing the game.